What is going on, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice Pacers. Hey guys, Derek and Cody with you. Guys, we wanted to bring you an update. The Pacers are going back to the playoffs, Cody. First time since 2020 that the Pacers have finally made it into the playoff picture. But the Indiana Pacers destroy the Atlanta Hawks. Well, with a final score of 157 to 115. It was a game that was pretty much controlled completely by the Pacers. And before we get into who they'll face in the playoffs, we're going to go ahead and just hop into this game. I mean, Cody, this was really a wild game from start to finish. Early in the game, the Pacers had a double-digit lead within the first 3 minutes of this game starting. And then about midway through the second quarter, maybe just a little bit past the mid of the second quarter, the Hawks actually came back and tied the game up, Cody. And then the Pacers still, by the time halftime went around, ended up having a double-digit lead again going into the halftime. So the Pacers had a double-digit lead of like a 15, 16-point lead for the majority of the first quarter and beyond. Then the second quarter lost the lead all the way down to tying it. And then within 4.5 minutes proceeded to get a double-digit lead back. And then from that point forward, the lead just kept building and building and building for the Indiana Pacers, who ended up winning this game with their highest lead of 42. So this was an amazing game, Cody. We have some more stats to bring up here, but what was your thoughts on this high offensive power game by the Pacers here today?
I first checked the score in the first quarter, like 10 minutes or so into the game. The Pacers are already up 8-0. And I was like, all right, this is how it's going to be today. The Pacers are going to literally outpace the Hawks, and it's not really going to be close. You mentioned some of the stats. Pacers break a franchise record with points scored in the first half, 86 points, Derek, which is just insane considering, the Pacers in certain games this year have barely scored, at times in some of their worst games, have barely scored 100, right? And so the fact that they score 86 in the first half is just insane. And, in the second half, they didn't let it off. They kept going. And I know we both wanted Derek, the Pacers, to break the all-time scoring game. But obviously it didn't happen. They got some of their reserves in the game to end it. But Derek, the Pacers do that. They tie a franchise record for most points scored in a game. And also, just to throw in another stat as well, the Pacers, with that 150-plus point game in today's game, they had 4 150-point games this season, which actually ties the 72 Lakers and the 79 Spurs for the most all time. So, Derek, with the Pacers, again, another fantastic offensive performance from them. I mean, their offense has been good all year. But, I mean, Derek, this is just like the cherry on top for how good it's truly been this year. And it was definitely great to see them after a very disappointing loss against, the Cavaliers on Friday, to see the Pacers come out and not just win, but destroy the Hawks, do exactly what they needed to do, right? Which you said they need to come off, to be honest with you, they need to come off pissed off. Like, they need to be angry at that loss. And they need to come out because it was a win in your end type of scenario. And we're like, the Pacers not only need to win, they need to come out and do exactly what they just did against the Atlanta Hawks. And that's win by 40 plus. And so that definitely was great to see the Indiana Pacers do what they did in the fashion that they did it, and really make a statement here, Derek, for the final game of the regular season and say, hey, we're going to be in this thing, and we know any given night we can go out and score over 150. Like, we can go out there and we can compete with the best of them when it comes to scoring. And so it was just great to see them. Although the Hawks, obviously not a good team, the Pacers do what they needed to do and make that kind of statement that they made there tonight.
Oh, 100%. It was a statement win and a half. I mean, and I'll add on to your stats that you were putting out earlier, because I mentioned it to you before we went live on this recording. 3 of the 4 games this season that the Pacers scored 150 points in all those games, 3 of those games have come against these very Hawks. So 3 different times this year. The Pacers have played the Hawks 4 times this year. 3 of those games, they scored 150 points. So it is actually remarkable just how easy it has been for the Pacers against the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks, who don't play a ton of great defense and they don't have a lot of help inside. So the Pacers really just, like you said, they were in charge of the pace of the whole game, Cody. They were at home. The home environment was, from the very first bucket, you heard the crowd just get amped up. Like they were ready for this team to come out swinging. And I don't know how to confirm this, but I'm pretty sure the first 6 or 7 shots that the Pacers had, Cody, were all makes. Like they were hot coming out the gate. I mean, it was 13-2 with not even in the first 3 minutes of the game, Cody. Like the Pacers were just dictating it right from the get-go. Like you said, this might have been the greatest performance by the Pacers all season, albeit it was against a bad team in the Atlanta Hawks. But you're right. This was a pressurous game here because if you didn't win this one, you're going to have to do the play-in tournament. And who knows if you would have won that. So to be able to go out right away and establish your dominance and not only win, but just to destroy them, I mean, it's remarkable. And going into some of the stats here, I mean, shot 65% from the field, Cody. That's insane. 100 shots and made 65 of them. Shot 53% from 3. That's insane. That is just, you're never going to lose when you shoot 65% and shoot over 50 from 3. You just never are. Amazingly enough, the free throw difference was absolutely insane too. The Atlanta Hawks had 27 free throws in this game, Cody. The Pacers, 10. Wow. They had 17 more free throw attempts, and the Pacers still did this. They out-rebounded the Hawks 48-32. They out-assisted the Hawks 41-25. Had more steals, had more blocks. They had one less turnover than the Hawks did. More than double the amount of fast break points, almost doubled the points in the paint, and doubled the amount of fouls versus the Hawks. The Hawks only had 12 fouls in this game, Cody. That's insane that the Pacers doubled the fouls, and that's what happened. I mean, again, there is not a single statistic that you can show in this game to where the Pacers did not dominate. And I mean, I don't think we've seen that this year. Again, I know it's not against a great team, but the stakes were not any higher than this throughout the whole season. And the Pacers just put on the most collective performance of the year. I mean, what's your reaction to some of these stats?
So this was just, Derek, it felt like a video game. Like the Pacers could get a bucket pretty much anytime they wanted to in this game. And Derek, I don't think we were even talking about the fact that midway through the fourth quarter, the Pacers weren't even playing their starters anymore. It was backup guys. You know, it was guys like Doug McDermott, guys like Kendall Brown, Jarris Walker, like guys like that were getting a lot of
leading minutes guys were Siakam and Halliburton with 25 minutes.
Yeah, so like you didn't need to rely on all these different guys in that fourth quarter, really. I mean, you're up by 30 plus at that point, right? So like you didn't need to rely on them to do what they did, on a given night. And that was probably kind of nice for them to get a little bit of rest in the fourth quarter. But yeah, I mean, overall, man, definitely something where you're like, man, if the Pacers would have kept their starters in and kept it going full throttle, could they have broken the scoring record? Maybe. Yes. Maybe they could have. But I get it. I totally get it. Don't want to risk any injury heading into the playoffs and things like that. But yeah, man, I mean, absolutely the exact response you needed. No question.
Yeah, and you're right. It had to have been fun for the Pacers starters. All of them, none of them exceeding more than 25 minutes. And they all just got to sat back and just watch these bench guys, a lot of whom had very little minutes this year go out there and have their own fun out there. Like the fans were enjoying it. The starters were enjoying it. I mean, what else wasn't there to love? I mean, when you look at some of these stats, I mean, Cody, it was another day where 7 players for the Pacers ended up getting double digits, but it felt so much more spaced out in this game than what it normally is. Like Pascal Siakam, 28 points, 6 rebounds, assists and a steal, plus 27, shot 70% from the field. Talk about the quietest 28 points ever. I didn't even know that Siakam had 28 until I actually looked it up. He had an amazing game, but I just never realized he had that much. Aaron Naismith, 8 points, 3 rebounds, and assists, had the quietest night of anyone, but he only played 20 minutes in this game, but he was perfect from the field. Nembhard played 23 minutes, had 10 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal, shot 80% from the field. Halliburton only with 12 points on the day, but also had 2 rebounds and 13 assists and 3 steals and a block, shot 50% from the field. But the big winner of the starters was Miles Turner once again. And I'll tell you what, Cody, Miles Turner over these last 2 weeks, this dude has been dialing it in. Even while dealing with that finger that he messed up a few weeks ago, it has not seemed to bother him one bit. He's had multiple games where he's scored at that 30-point threshold, had another 31-pointer today, had 12 rebounds, 4 blocks down below too. 4 blocks, shot over 70% from the field, shot 75% from 3. I mean, what can you say about Miles Turner, dude? He is just on fire right now, and it has really helped elevate this Pacers game right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's been so efficient. It feels like shooting the basketball all year, but you mentioned it, especially recently, it feels like Miles has just turned it up to another level. I feel like this year, just consistency-wise, Miles has been a lot better. He's been a lot more consistent overall, shooting the basketball, playing defense, doing those things. And so especially recently, it definitely feels like Miles has just continued to turn it up. And like you mentioned, that finger's not really bothering him too bad. So great to see from Miles. Just another great night. I mean, pretty much Derek, Miles set the tone right away. I mean, he came in immediately, score and one. And you were like, okay, like he's setting the tone early for this game, how it's going to go for the Pacers. And like you mentioned, he just didn't let up the entire rest of the game. I mean, 31 points in only 22 minutes, Derek. That's pretty darn impressive. 13 to 17 shooting, 3 of 4 from the 3-point line. Just fantastic overall, Derek, from Miles Turner again. He's efficient, and also, Derek, he can shoot from pretty much anywhere. As a center, that's pretty great to have in your back pocket, to be able to just pop up a 3 whenever you can. Whenever you need to, because a lot of those big guys, they can't shoot, but Miles can shoot, and he can do it efficiently. And so that's great to see that he can do pretty much everything when it comes to shooting the basketball. So, yeah, great night for Miles Turner, setting the tone early from the crowd and for the home team. And, yeah, definitely was pretty pivotal to this team and just starting off well and ending well.
Yeah, and then going into the bench, which is the funniest part to look at here. You're right. Look, who had the most minutes of any player on the Pacers today, and that was Ben Shepherd with 26 minutes off the bench. Had 7 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Shot 50% from the field. Obi Toppin had a couple minutes, played 12. He had 7, 2, and 3, had a steal. Didn't shoot all that great. But Jalen Smith played 19 minutes, had 10, 5, and 2, had a block as well. Doug McDermott with the best performance of the season for himself, played 18 minutes, had 15, 1, and 1, shot 67%. Again, another great day from TJ McConnell, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, shot 71% from the field. But, I mean, just looking at all the rest of these guys, Cody, I mean, like you said, Brown got to play in this game finally. He had a couple buckets. Walker finally got to play for the first time in a while. He got a couple buckets, got a couple good rebounds there too. Jackson got to play for a few minutes at the very end. and Jalen Johnson got to go in and play for a couple minutes. I mean, we were going deep into this bench. I mean, everybody got a chance today to eat today, which was, I mean, it was just so fun to watch like you said, from the mid third quarter, you were seeing guys out there that normally we don't see in the games. And then when the fourth quarter came around, we had practically just bench on bench guys out there, and they were still building the lead, which was even funnier. So, I mean, fantastic work there to be able to see everybody pitch in a little bit.
Yeah, total team win. I mean, from, like you said, the starters to the backups. I mean, everybody was playing well in this game. So, yeah, you definitely saw some guys more extended roles than typical for them. So that was great to see some of the young guys, mentioned Ben Shepherd, Jarris Walker, some of those guys getting some more minutes. So definitely great to see some good experience for them here. So love to see that. It was crazy. Yeah, you said Ben Shepherd, the most minutes out of anybody. That should tell you how the game goes if one of your bench players has the most minutes on the court during a single game. So definitely great, Derek. Definitely just all around great to see some of these young guys get some minutes with. You haven't had these teams that you've just blown out like this typically. So it's been great to see today that the Pacers had that opportunity for some of these guys to get some minutes.
Absolutely, man. Well, and now we can finally go to the last part of this video, and we're going to continue to have more things on this as we go along. But we were just watching the Knicks versus the Bulls game right before we started recording this, and that was important because if the Knicks won, which they did, now we have to play a particularly favorable opponent, and that is against the Milwaukee Bucks, who obviously we have had a lot of fun with earlier this year. The Milwaukee Bucks and the Pacers have gone back and forth quite a bit this year, but the Pacers have gotten the better end of the Bucks quite a few times early this year. But the Pacers and the Bucks, here we go. 3 seed versus the 6 seed, Cody. The Pacers finally get in. They're going to face a familiar opponent. And, there's news that maybe Giannis Antetokounmpo is not 100% right now and may not be 100% going into this playoff series. So what's your early impressions on the Pacers having to face the Bucks once again in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, Derek, like you'd rather play the Bucks than the Knicks. Like we talked about this. That's why we were rooting for the Knicks to take care of business in overtime. Definitely went down to the wire, but the Knicks able to take care of business. And, you mentioned it. You've had some good success. Seems like you match up well against the Milwaukee Bucks. And also, like you mentioned, Giannis dealing with that injury. And so he's not going to be at 100%. So I think, honestly, for the Pacers, Derek, this was a best-case scenario for them to get the opponent that they want and potentially come out, winners of, the first round. Again, they have to go and play it. They have to do it. But again, on paper, it's definitely a favorable matchup and probably one of the ones, if you're dreaming of a team you want to play right now, it's probably the Milwaukee Bucks out of anybody. So, yeah, man, definitely great for the Pacers when it comes to their first opponent here in the playoffs. And it's just nice, from a Pacers perspective, that you can actually talk about the playoffs. It's been for way too long coming for the Pacers, man, especially with the hype around this team the last year or so. It's definitely great to see them starting to put it together a little bit. Again, extremely young team still. So there's a long way to go for this team. But Derek, this is going to be so valuable for your young team to get this playoff experience. So I'm very excited for that. Excited to see, all these guys, obviously Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner, the two guys that have had some playoff experience, but definitely great to see some of these young guys, that are going to get some of this opportunity here and get some of that experience under their belt. And we'll see. Maybe the Pacers win a series or two. You never know, man. It just takes, a couple games for this team to get hot. And they definitely had a great performance against the Hawks. So you never know. Some stuff to build off of. And really excited to see, man, how this first round of playoffs goes for the Pacers.
Absolutely. Like you said, we have some playoff experience. Great to have Pascal Siakam in there for that. It'll be Tyrese Halliburton's first time in the playoffs. We'll see how he does and whether or not we'll see that version of Tyrese Halliburton that we saw earlier in the year when he was facing teams like the Bucks, where he was, going off on some of those insane performances. So it'll be interesting to see. And like we said, guys, we're going to have more stuff on that, more content as it comes along. But let us know your thoughts on this, guys. Pacers, back to the playoffs, baby. Let us know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, go Pacers.